Namaskar. A warm welcome to World News, an Indian perspective on All India Radio. This is Abhineet Shukla, and with me is Aditi Lumba, bringing glimpses of the major developments of the day from across the globe. Over the next half an hour, we shall bring you the latest from the world of politics, economy, sports, entertainment, and more. The headlines. Prime Minister of India Narendra Modi addresses the annual meeting of Confederation of Indian Industry, says major responsibility for success of self-reliant India lies on industries. India-Singapore holds Foreign Office consultations meet today to review entire gamut of bilateral relations. ISRO begins countdown for India's state-of-the-art Earth Observation Satellite EOS-03. Over 52 crore doses of COVID-19 vaccine administered in India so far. Normal life resumes in Bangladesh as COVID restrictions removed by the government. United Nations Special Envoy for Myanmar warns of a full-scale civil war if all key parties don't hold a successful dialogue. At least 25 Algerian soldiers and 17 civilians killed in a wildfire in Algiers. And in cricket, second test match between India and England to be played in London on Thursday. As the nationwide free COVID-19 vaccination campaign at government facilities for those above 18 years is underway, we advise our young listeners to get vaccinated and also to help others get vaccinated. We also advise our listeners not to lower their guard as COVID-19 remains a threat to our health. Please stay at home unless it is essential to go out and continue to follow these 3 simple steps. Wear a face mask, maintain 2 gaz ki doori for social distancing, focus on hand and face hygiene. For any COVID-related information and guidance, contact national helpline numbers 011-23978046 and 1075. And now the news in detail. Prime Minister of India Narendra Modi has said that when the country is set to celebrate Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, the vision to realize the dream of building an Atmanirbhar Bharat also lies on the shoulders of the industry leaders. The Prime Minister was addressing the Confederation of Indian Industry CII annual meeting this evening through video conferencing.
आत्मनिर्भर भारत अभियान की सफलता का बहुत बड़ा दायित्व भारतीय उद्योगों पर है और मैं आप लोगों से कहना चाहता हूं कि सरकार आपके साथ है, आपके हर प्रयास के साथ है। आज देश में विकास के प्रति जो वातावरण बना है, अपने सामर्थ्य के प्रति जो विश्वास बना है, भारतीय उद्योग जगत को उसका पूरा लाभ उठाना चाहिए.
Mr. Modi said, even during such unprecedented times of COVID-19, the country is witnessing how industry and government can work hand in hand. Mr. Modi said, India, which was once apprehensive of foreign investment, is today welcoming every type of investment. He said, India is receiving record FDI because of reforms done in the last few years.
आज का नया भारत नई दुनिया के साथ चलने के लिए तैयार है, तत्पर है. जो भारत कभी विदेशी निवेश से आशंकित था, आज वो हर प्रकार के निवेश का स्वागत कर रहा है. जिस भारत की टैक्स से जुड़ी नीतियों से कभी निवेशकों में निराशा फैल जाती थी, आज उसी भारत में दुनिया का सबसे कॉम्पिटिटिव कॉर्पोरेट टैक्स है और फेसलेस टैक्स सिस्टम भी है. जिस भारत में दस्तावेजों में, कागजों में, कानूनों में उलझाना ब्यूरोक्रेसी की पहचान माना जाता था, वहीं आज ईज ऑफ डूइंग बिजनेस रैंक में बड़ी छलांग लगा रहा है.
The Prime Minister said the country's forex reserve is on an all-time high and India is taking major leaps in ease of doing business rankings. He said during monsoon session of Parliament, many important bills were passed. Mr. Modi said the Factoring Regulation Amendment Bill will help small businesses get credit facilities. The Deposit Insurance and Credit Guarantee Corporation Amendment Bill will also protect the rights of small depositors. The Prime Minister said the youth is filled with confidence as seen at the Tokyo Olympics, and it shows that they are ready to set higher goals and work towards achieving them. The Prime Minister said they have also seen the report of record hiring in the IT sector.
IT सेक्टर में रिकॉर्ड हायरिंग को लेकर भी हमने रिपोर्ट देखी है. ये देश में डिजिटाइजेशन और डिमांड की ग्रोथ का ही परिणाम है. ऐसे में अब हमारा प्रयास होना चाहिए कि हम इन नए अवसरों का उपयोग करते हुए अपने लक्ष्यों की तरफ 2 गुनी गति से बढ़े.
The Prime Minister added that investor response has been tremendous for those startups, and this signals that India has extraordinary opportunities for growth. Mr. Modi said the agriculture sector was once considered to be just a medium of livelihood. But now efforts are being made to connect Indian farmers with the domestic and global markets through historic reforms in the agriculture sector.
जहां कभी कृषि को सिर्फ गुजारे का माध्यम माना जाता, वहीं अब कृषि में ऐतिहासिक रिफॉर्म्स के जरिए भारतीय किसानों के देश विदेश के मार्केट से सीधे जोड़ने का प्रयास हो रहा है.
Both the houses of Indian Parliament were adjourned sine die today after passing several important bills. With this, the monsoon session comes to an end today. Parliament has passed the Constitution 127th Amendment Bill 2021 with Rajya Sabha approving it today. It was passed by Lok Sabha yesterday. The bill is aimed at restoring the powers of the states to have their own lists of OBCs for reservation in jobs and educational institutions. Parliament also passed the General Insurance Business Nationalization Amendment Bill 2021. The bill seeks to allow privatization of state-run general insurance companies. The Parliament also passed the National Commission for Homeopathy Amendment Bill 2021 and the National Commission for Indian System of Medicine Amendment Bill 2021 with the Rajya Sabha approving it today. The Lok Sabha has already passed these bills.
In today's Hotspot section, we bring you an exclusive interview with Secretary, Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, Ajay Prakash Sani, Sonu Sood, AIR correspondent.
The Digital India program was launched to transform India into a digitally empowered society and knowledge economy. 6 years after its launch, it is being hailed as one of the government's biggest achievements. In his address, Prime Minister said, Digital India is sadhana of Atmanirbhar Bharat and slogan for stronger India in 21st century. Sir, looking back, how do you view the progress India has made on the digital front in these 6 years of Digital India?
I think we have made very serious progress in these 6 years. The digital footprint has spread nationwide. Aadhaar now covers 129 crore records. Mobiles are there with 115 crore mobile subscribers, 160 crore bank accounts. There are almost 80 crore internet subscribers. So this is a very, very significant leap over what was there 6 years ago. The number of transactions, we have a portal called e-Tal, which keeps track of the number of transactions happening across all kinds of Digital India projects. And this now comes to an average of about 22 crore per day. That is the kind of rise that has happened. The other platforms like Government e-Marketplace, DigiLocker, Umang, UPI, GEM, GSTN, all of these have made a huge impact. So now with the mobile in the hands of everyone, I think it makes a very big difference to what we have accomplished and what we can accomplish further.
So what are the key programs under Digital India that have given a boost to digital empowerment across the country, if you would categorize them broadly?
One of them is for people who are not having access to computers or maybe even to mobiles. The common service centers have got established almost in the nook and corner of the entire country. We used to have about, I think, 84,000 CSCs in 2014, and now we have about 3.75 lakh common service centers. Out of the 2.58 lakh Gram Panchayats, we have one or more common service centers in 2.51 lakh Gram Panchayats, which is huge, which means that in every Gram Panchayat, practically, you have a walk-in center. The second scheme that has made an impact is PMG Disha. This is Pradhan Mantri Gramin Disha program, which is for digital literacy. And in this, about 4 crore people have been trained, about 3 crore of them have been tested and certified, and this is one person per family. So when I say 4 crore people trained, it means people from 4 crore families who are actually trained. It's a short program, but it familiarizes a person with use of mobile phone, use of internet, and digital payments and such things. Third third thing that has empowered people is a very recent one. The e-Gramin stores that have been opened by common service centers. Honorable Prime Minister also spoke to someone who was a beneficiary who had used the services of Gramin e-store. Similarly, the programs around work from home, which have enabled people to work from home using wireless or fiber-based broadband, the establishment of rural BPOs that have brought jobs into the rural areas, a number of other missions covering specific sectors, National Digital Health Mission, etc. These are very key programs.
In fact, the thrust of Digital India was to realize the Prime Minister's vision of a digital Bharat, that is, a digitally empowered villages. So you have outlined the various ways in which the government has progressed in this endeavor. What are the key challenges in this regard?
We have reached about 1.7 lakh Gram Panchayat. Fiber has reached now under the BharatNet program. 80,000 Gram Panchayats still to be covered in this. And then once the fiber reaches the Gram Panchayats, taking it further to all the villages in the Gram Panchayat. There are about 6 lakh villages in the country. So that's the next important step. And then also making sure that either through wireless or through fiber, everyone, every family in the country should have good access to broadband, good access to internet, and good access to various services that are carried over these mediums. So that is one challenge. The second challenge, of course, remains digital literacy and empowerment, which again, we are making very good progress. There are about 15 crore rural families in India. So we have covered about 4 crore families with at least one person in the family becoming digitally literate in a formal manner. So we have to also take up further programs in that direction. The third significant challenge is popularizing our nationwide platforms and making sure that the awareness is there about the kind of services that are available through e-Sanjeevani, for instance, or Diksha platform in education. So these are fabulous sets of services which are already available. But not all the families are aware. They don't make use of these. So there's a lot of ground to cover in popularizing and ensuring that these are used in a very significant number by families spread across the country.
So there's a natural hesitancy towards adopting a change, especially if it's a technological change.
Of course, we have seen also the other way actually, that a number of families where we don't expect them to use a particular service, we have seen huge adoption, especially during the COVID pandemic. The number of persons downloaded Arogya Setu, for instance. More than 19.5 crore people have downloaded Arogya Setu. Huge. And similarly, the number of people who have used CoWIN for their COVID vaccination and for getting certificate, that once again is a huge number. So much so that the CoWIN platform is now attracting attention across the globe, and many other countries want to make use of it.
Another thing is that you just now talked about the smartphone boom. Now that coupled with affordable data prices have really come down because of the efforts of the government. So this boom has penetrated almost every nook and corner of the country. How has the government leveraged this boom to improve governance and service delivery and move ahead on its path of minimum government, maximum governance?
We have some of the flagship programs that not just make use of this factor directly, but also enable a large number of other services to become easy to use. Aadhaar, for instance. Aadhaar is not primarily a physical identity card. It's an online identity card. It's something that you can invoke in various kinds of applications, whether it is for opening a new bank account or it is for getting a new SIM card or for various other activities. It's a very flexible kind of digital identity which a person carries. Umang has brought in a huge number of services that used to be provided over separate apps by different departments, some by this state government or that state government, one city or the other. We now have almost 21,000 services available or accessible through Umang app alone. And out of these, about 18,000 plus are, of course, digital payment services or billing services. But the remaining are other types of services pertaining to EPFO, pertaining to PAN, pertaining to the municipal services of all kinds. So all of those services are now available on one app. So that seriously empowers anyone who has a mobile phone, because through one app and through one kind of a login, you are able to maintain access to a very large number of services. Similarly, DigiLocker has been a great enabler for people who use mobile phones because in carrying, for instance, the vehicle registration papers or driving licenses or a PAN card, now all of these can be accessed through the DigiLocker, including Aadhaar itself. One can access through DigiLocker, and DigiLocker is now getting expanded into a health records locker as well, Health Locker, in conjunction with the National Digital Health Mission. It's already acting as the National Academic Depository, which means that more than 800 universities now store all the degrees and qualifications. They are accessible through DigiLocker. UPI has made a huge impact because UPI, with the number of apps riding on UPI, all those make it exceptionally easy for a person carrying a mobile phone to effect digital payment transactions or to receive digital payments. Two-factor authentication. This is something which is, I would like to say that India is a leader in this particular space. The two-factor authentication makes it so convenient, so easy for us to do things, whether it is financial transactions or it is receiving delivery of goods from e-com stores. So all of that is again innovation that has really been driven by India.
Thank you so much, sir, for sharing your valuable insights on government's transformational flagship program, Digital India, for the listeners of All India Radio. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
The 15th India-Singapore Foreign Office consultations were held virtually on Wednesday. The Indian delegation was led by Secretary East in Ministry of External Affairs in India, Riva Ganguly Das, and the Singapore delegation was led by Permanent Secretary in Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Chi V. Keong. Both sides reviewed the entire gamut of bilateral relations and expressed their satisfaction that despite the pandemic, considerable substance and content had been added to the bilateral relationship, especially in trade and defense cooperation. The delegation discussed ways to further strengthen economic engagement between both the countries. Easing travel restrictions and resumption of people-to-people contact was also discussed. Secretary East thanked Singapore for the support during the second COVID wave. Issues pertaining to ASEAN-India relations and India-Singapore cooperation in the Indo-Pacific were also discussed.
The ISRO launcher GSLV F-10 will launch Earth Observation Satellite EOS-03 from the second launch pad of Satish Dhawan Space Center or SHAR in Sriharikota at 5:43 hours on Thursday. EOS-03 is a state-of-the-art Earth observation satellite that will be placed in a geosynchronous orbit. A 4-meter diameter ogive-shaped payload fairing is being flown for the first time in this mission. The payload will provide real-time data of natural disasters by constantly monitoring water bodies, crops, vegetation conditions, and forest cover changes. EOS-03 is capable of imaging the country 4 to 5 times every day. This is the 14th flight of the 52-meter tall GSLV launch vehicle. The satellite will reach the final orbit using its onboard propulsion system. More than 52 crore COVID vaccine doses have been administered in India so far under the nationwide vaccination drive. The Union Health Ministry of India said more than 41,38,000 vaccine doses were administered during the last 24 hours. More than 40,000 patients recovered during the last 24 hours. Till now, over 3 crore 12 lakh people have recovered from COVID-19. The recovery rate stands at 97.45%.
Bangladesh resumed normal life with COVID restrictions being removed by the government on Wednesday. Capital city Dhaka saw the usual traffic with jams on major roads and intersections of the city. Shops and malls were bustling with most of the people wearing face masks. City roads were busy with traffic. People returned back to the daily businesses of life, even while the fear of the pandemic lurked behind everyone's mind as coronavirus continued to claim hundreds of lives in a day. Bangladesh has been under various kinds of lockdowns since April 5th, when coronavirus cases started rising sharply. Government imposed restrictions and sometimes relaxed some of those, trying to balance the demands of safety of life and allowing livelihood of people to continue even if at a reduced scale. United Nations has said that it remains in touch with stakeholders in Afghanistan to find a political solution to the conflict. During a press briefing, Chief Spokesperson for UN Secretary General Stephane Dujarric yesterday said that they continue to be in touch with all the parties, whether in Afghanistan or regional parties, in an effort to find a political solution. The spokesman also said that the facts on the ground in Afghanistan, as reported, are extremely worrying and extremely concerning. All this should be a reminder for the parties to actually focus on the political process. He added, meanwhile, United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights, Michelle Bachelet, said, violence against Afghan civilians by Taliban fighters could amount to war crimes and crimes against humanity. She has informed that at least 183 civilians have been killed, while more than 1,180 have been wounded in 4 Afghan cities alone since 9th of last month, as Taliban offensives have escalated.
United Nations Special Envoy for Myanmar has warned of a full-scale civil war if all key parties don't hold a successful dialogue on all issues of the South Asian country. UN Envoy Christine Schreiner Burgener yesterday said clashes between the military and local defense forces are continuing. People are frightened and suffering. There is no freedom of speech. The World Bank predicts an 18% drop in GDP this year, and the International Labour Organization estimates 2.2 million jobs have been lost since January, UN Envoy added. On top of that, she said Myanmar is currently facing a severe COVID-19 third wave with more than 333,000 reported cases, including 3,611 new cases yesterday. Meanwhile, United Nations announced $50 million in critical humanitarian assistance to the people of Myanmar, including those forced to flee violence and persecution. A Chinese court sentenced Canadian entrepreneur Michael Spavor to 11 years in prison Wednesday in a spying case that has been linked to Beijing's pressure campaign against the Canadian government over the arrest of an executive at tech giant Huawei. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau called it absolutely unacceptable and unjust. With relations between China and Canada already at the worst in decades over what some commentators have called tit-for-tat arrests of national and hostage diplomacy, the jailing of Spavor seems to sink the relationship to an even lower point. Spavor was found guilty of spying and illegal provision of state secrets abroad by the Liaoning court on Wednesday, and will also be fined 50,000 yuan and deported. He has 10 days to appeal. Spavor and another Canadian were detained in China after the executive Meng Wanzhou was arrested at the Vancouver airport in late 2018 at the request of U.S. authorities.
In U.S., New York Governor Andrew Cuomo has resigned after an inquiry found that he sexually harassed women. The three-term governor's decision, which will take effect in 2 weeks, was announced as momentum built in the legislature to remove him by impeachment. It came after New York's Attorney General released the results of an investigation that found Cuomo sexually harassed at least 11 women. This is All India Radio giving you the news. For quick news updates round the clock, follow us on our Twitter handle at AIR News Alerts.
Algeria's wildfire death toll today climbed to 65 people, including 28 soldiers, as the president declared a 3-day mourning. The government has deployed the army to help fight the fires, which have burnt most fiercely in the mountainous Kabylie region, and 28 of the dead are soldiers, with another 12 critically injured with burns. President Abdelmadjid Tebboune said his North African nation would enter a 3-day period of mourning starting tomorrow to honor the victims. The worst hit area has been Tizi Ouzou, the largest district of the Kabylie region, where houses have burned and residents fled to shelter in hotels and hostels in nearby towns. And now a report from the business world.
At the stock markets, erasing all its early gains, the Sensex at the Bombay Stock Exchange shed 29 points to end at 54,526 today, but the Nifty at the National Stock Exchange gained 2 points to 16,282. At the domestic forex market, the rupee shed 1 paise to 74 rupees and 43 paise against the US dollar. Among the global markets, key indices in Asia Pacific ended mixed. So Japan's Nikkei 225 index rose 0.7%, China's Shanghai Composite Index edged up 0.1%, and Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index gained 0.2%. But South Korea's Kospi Index fell 0.7%, and Singapore's Straits Times Index dropped 0.9%. And in Europe, London's FTSE 100 had risen 0.5%, France's CAC 40 had gained 0.3%, and Germany's DAX had traded flat in intraday trade. And the Brent crude oil futures fell below $70 a barrel today, pressured by a CNBC report that the White House will call on OPEC and its allies to boost production in an effort to combat climbing gasoline prices. So the Brent crude futures declined 86 cents to trade at $69.77 a barrel. barrel. The U.S. crude futures dropped 80 cents to $67.49 a barrel. And back home, gold rose 159 rupees to 45,130 rupees per 10 grams in Delhi. Nishit Kumar for World News, All India Radio.
The second of the 5 test matches between India and England will be played at Lord's at London on Thursday. The two sides competed toe-to-toe before the fifth and the final day of the Nottingham Test got washed out due to relentless rain on 8th of August. Both teams shared 4 points each from the drawn fixture as the series remains 0-0 and will be eyeing a win at Lord's to set the tone of the series. Both teams will head to Lord's a bit concerned over the form of their main batters. Barring Joe Root, who single-handedly saved the match with a 50 and a crucial 100 in the second innings, none of the England batters looked comfortable against the four-seam attack of the India, whereas Cheteshwar Pujara and Ajinkya Rahane looked off-colour for the visitors. Match will start at 3:30 p.m. IST. Now let us take a look at the major developments around the world as reported in the foreign press. Washington Post writes that Senate Democrats adopt sweeping $3.5 trillion budget that opens the door to health, education and tax reforms. Wall Street Journal says that Ethiopia's war in Tigray sees minorities targeted across the country. Gulf Times says that Zambians to vote in tense polls as economy struggles. The Guardian says Poland's coalition under threat as Parliament votes on media bill. The Himalayan Times writes that Facebook bans firm behind Pfizer-AstraZeneca smear campaign. South China Morning Post says Taiwan, US agree to hold regular talks on Coast Guard cooperation.
Now let's take a look at some more stories. Afghanistan has replaced its army chief as Taliban militants continue to make rapid advances. The insurgents have now taken control of 9 of the 34 provincial capitals. In their latest offensive, sources told the BBC that the Taliban had entered the center of the city of Ghazni, where heavy fighting has erupted. President Ashraf Ghani earlier flew to the northern city of Mazar-e-Sharif, traditionally an anti-Taliban bastion, to try to rally pro-government forces. The removal of the country's army chief, General Wali Muhammad Ahmadzai, was confirmed to the BBC today. He had only been in the post since June. US President Joe Biden said yesterday that he did not regret withdrawing troops after 20 years and urged Afghan leaders to unite and fight for their nation. According to UN, more than 1,000 civilians have been killed amid fierce fighting in the past month. A quick look at the headlines once again. Prime Minister of India Narendra Modi addresses the annual meeting of Confederation of Indian Industry, says major responsibility for success of self-reliant India lies on industries. India-Singapore holds Foreign Office Consultations meet today to review entire gamut of bilateral relations. ISRO begins countdown for India's state-of-the-art Earth observation satellite EOS-03. Over 52 crore doses of COVID-19 vaccine administered in India so far. Normal life resumes in Bangladesh as COVID restrictions removed by the government. United Nations Special Envoy for Myanmar warns of a full-scale civil war if all key parties don't hold a successful dialogue. At least 28 Algerian soldiers and 37 civilians killed in wildfire in Algiers. And in cricket, second test match between India and England to be played in London on Thursday. India is celebrating the 151st birth anniversary of Mahatma Gandhi. Before we end, let us listen to his favorite bhajan, Vaishnav Jan, by artists from Chad on their Independence Day. And with that, we end this bulletin. We will be back at the same time tomorrow with the next edition of World News.